Can you look at a hurricane and say, oh, we need to stop that. Let's go out and stop that. That's not right. Well, think of fire the same way. Think of forest health the same way. You can't just go out and change that sort of large-scale environment. So what we have to do is we have to learn to live within it. And if we want to live in the wildland-urban interface and enjoy nature, then we need to protect our homes. And your view shed will remain the same until it starts to grow and grow and grow, and then the beetles or the fire comes. And that's going to happen. It's a controversial subject on what pre-settlement looked like. We could look back at some of the photos from that era, and if you see that, what you'll see is a tree density similar to what you see on that hillside. But understand, these weren't small trees. These were large ponderosa pine trees, so it tells you how healthy the forest was. Beautiful, great for grazing, wildlife, good for fire. There was no way for fire to get up and run. But what we see now is the whole forest is shifting to a mixed conifer. In other words, ponderosa, lodgepole, spruce, other different types of trees and brush and grass are all growing together, and you can only imagine what the end result for that will be. And Mother Nature's going to clean it up. None of this is our fault. It's Mother Nature, and it's what she does. And you know, whether the beetles come and clean it up or fire comes and cleans it up, one of the two is going to happen.
My name's Karen Simmons, and I live on Sunshine Canyon. I work at the university, and we lived here year-round for 7 years. Bought the place in 1969. So the fire came from the east, and it burned up the draw that goes down to the town of Sunshine, burned up the hill across this open space, and got within 2 feet of the generator house. And the generator house door bubbled and could have caught.
It all begins with the homeowner's effort. There's 3 different zones in that sort of mitigation. One's zone 1, that's the area immediately around the home. A lot of the homes that were compromised in the Fourmile fire were compromised because of lawn furniture, stacked firewood, flammables on people's decks, grasses that came straight up to their homes. It wasn't because of the trees. And so it really all starts with the homeowner taking a real conscious effort to protect zone 1. Make it non-flammable.
If you put a shovel and a rake and hose, if you've got water, where firefighters can access them, then they can use those to help mitigate fire that's approaching a structure. And lo and behold, you know, after 40 years, they came and they used that shovel and that rake to pull the fire away from my generator house. I was so grateful that they had told us all that. This was the original cedar siding on the house. It got really, really dry, and I was very concerned that if a fire did come along, it would burn down. I got this hardy board siding, which is a cement fiber siding, and we just put that right over the old siding, so I now have a 3/4 inch insulation of the wood. From some of the California fires, it was clear that if you had a single pane of glass, if you got a hot fire, the fire would break the glass, and then it enters the house, and the house burns down. So they figured out that if you put a double pane of safety glass, the outer pane may break from the heat, but it won't fall in. And then the second pane of glass protects you from fire entering the house and burning the house down. So that's what I did last year, and knock on wood, we didn't test it, but I'm awfully glad I've got it.
As we move outward from the house, we talk about zone 2. Zone 2 is an area basically 100 feet or so outside from every corner of the house. That 100 feet, what you want to do is you want to really thin the forest down. You want to remove trees. You want to create some openings, 20, 30, 40-foot spacing between each tree. You want to pull the limbs and cut them from the trees so the fire can't get up into the trees.
So the fire came from the east, and it came up along the road here. And where I had done the limbing, the fire burned through the grass, but did not burn the trees. Just burned the grass and kept going. But over here on this side, where I had not done the limbing and where we have open space land, the grass caught the limbs, and the limbs then tried to burn some of the trees. And so it's pretty clear that this limbing really does a very good job. These are a new concept with the Forest Service. It has a chemical in it that imitates a hormone that the beetle puts out. When a beetle infests the tree, it puts out one scent that says, "I found a great tree, come and join me." When the tree is fairly full of beetles, then it puts out a different scent. And so the Forest Service has learned that if they fill these packets with the second scent that says, "This tree is full, go away," it seems to protect the trees, and the beetles don't attack it. And so here in my area, I've ringed the property about every 30 feet with these packets. And they're not cheap, but they protect my trees.
And then we move outwards towards Zone 3. And this is where a lot of the bigger projects that you see in mitigation occur. This is landscape scale treatment. Hundreds of acres, 50 acres, where they're going in and removing lots of trees.
So this is like a 300-foot wide clear cut. This was then supposed to stop the fire. When the fire was coming from the east, apparently the firefighters decided that this would be a good place, that if it were going to continue, they would do a slurry drop here to keep it from coming that way. The original concept was to keep it from coming from the west, and in this case it was coming from the east, but the clear cut still did the same job. Well, I was downtown already when the fire started, and so all of my windows were open, and I ended up with a lot of smoke damage in the house, because by the time I learned about the fire, all of the roads were closed. Some of the firefighters themselves were reporting to me that the house was still standing. But whether the house was okay or whether it was only still standing, and burned out inside or whatever, it wasn't until 9 days later that we got in here. And I'll tell you, the stress of waiting for 9 days was pretty hard.
It's a three-pronged attack. And if you fail on any part of that, what you're going to do is see a failure in the mitigation effort, in the fire management plan for each individual house. The community, the subdivision, the 6, 10 houses, the whatever that live together, they have to make the difference, and they have to work together. And they have to approach it from that Zone 3, Zone 2, and then Zone 1.
This was my husband and my first house. It was absolutely devastating to think that the place had been burned down, and waiting for those 9 days to hear whether it was still here or not. It was hard, but I'm grateful to the firefighters, to the mitigation, and the work that I had done on the house. I still have a house. I'm grateful.